Hi guys, here we are. We're all gathered here together, group of people from actually South Africa, Bali and Australia. We're interviewing Nick Patterson today. Nick has a great YouTube video out there that with lots of things out there that educates people on what's happening in the world at the moment. So if you can get a chance to go and have a look at it, please do. I'm Serena from Bali and I've got Sharon, Shelley, Dirk and Zed with me here, all from other parts of the world. And we're here to actually pick the brains of Nick Patterson at the moment, because Nick sort of is quite cluey on, I guess, well, you'll find out anyway as we're talking. So I'm going to ask him certain questions. It's all based around businesses and what businesses can do to survive in what's going on in the world at the moment. So you'll get some really good tips and clues and things that maybe you should follow up if you don't already know some of them, to understand on what to do to just get where you need to be without suffering. At the moment, we know that a lot of businesses are shut down, not through the fault of their own, and it's creating a lot of problems out there, including suicides and things like that. So it's time now that you get to know your rights, you stand up and you take control of what's happening in your world. And people can't do it on their own, so we need others to take action and join in. So Nick, just to sort of start off, how do you exercise the right to make a living during these current times as a business? How do you stand up for your rights?
Oh, well, you just got to, my obligations to my family, okay, before the government. My obligations to the government don't, they're not going to cause me to die or my family to suffer. I'm not going to let that happen. So it's just going to be basically you've just got to do what you're going to do and wait for the inevitable knock on the door from the DHHS or whatever it is where you live, the equivalent, or the police. And that's where you're going to, basically the fight's already started. You might not be having an interaction with the police or with government officials, but it's there because they've basically made a claim that's impossible for people to do without being at a massive loss. So I guess historically, if somebody's actions cause you to be at a loss, they'd be liable for your losses. But the governments, they always leave an out, right? So they make these acts. What I've seen them do is they've made these acts and this new legislation in such a way where it doesn't actually compel you to close your business down. It only compels you on certain provisions, and there's certain provisions there that give you an out, and that way they're not liable because they don't want to accept liability for your losses, right? Because if my dog jumped over the next door neighbor's fence, ate the chickens in their yard, I'd be liable, right? So they don't want to accept that liability. So what they do is they make it look like the legislation applies to you and that you have to close down, but it doesn't actually apply to you if you read it properly. And there's always a loophole out. And if you don't know the loophole, or if the useful idiots like the police that don't know the law, if they don't actually know what the legislation says and they try to enforce it anyway, they're the ones that are going to commit the crimes against you, but they're being thrown under the bus by their higher ups anyway. Because I don't know, is anyone here from Victoria at all?
Originally born and bred.
Yeah. Okay. So in Victoria,
sorry,
the police were on a rampage arresting people under the Public Health and Wellbeing Act, right? They were arresting people, mask wearing, whatever it is, right? They never had reasonable grounds at law, but they would still arrest people. And reasonable grounds and this is what it's all based on reasonable grounds. Okay, all of their actions need to be justified at reasonable grounds, whether it's closing your business down, whether it's telling you that giving you a direction to move on, telling you that you can't be, you got to be within your 5Ks, 25Ks, whatever it is, whatever rules that they make, there has to be reasonable grounds for it. Now, for some reason, every police officer I've spoken to doesn't understand or comprehend what reasonable grounds is. And it's defined in the High Court of Australia, 1990, in a case called George versus Rocket. And I suggest you read that case, George versus Rocket, 1990, High Court of Australia, because there's actually a number of sections in that case where the justice explains what reasonable grounds is. And in order to establish reasonable grounds, there needs to be the existence of facts, and those facts, and it says reasonable grounds, and it says including suspicion of beliefs. You know how the police say, we believe you're committing an offence, we believe you're a risk to public health and you need to close your business down. We you know, this is the sort of claims you're going to make. Well, you know, the first thing is, he who makes a claim bears a burden of proof, right? So you've made the claim, where's the evidence? That's the first thing you should always be asking. But the other one is, do you have reasonable grounds to close my business down? Do you have facts sufficient to establish that state of mind for your belief, or are you just making it up, or you're assuming that I've committed an offence? I'll give you an example. I got arrested by by two PSOs, which don't even have the power to arrest, but they still arrested me under the I don't even know if it was as a police officer or as a public authorised health officer, but they arrested me in front of my 8-year-old son, and they basically said, well, have you got an exemption for not wearing a mask? I said, yeah. I said, well, show me. I said, well, it's not something that I need to show you. Okay. It's you know, it's of a private nature, and I don't want to share that information with you. And then they said, well, we don't believe you. So they've just made an assumption without any facts. See how I didn't give them any facts? I said, I don't want to show it to you. I don't have to. So they've made an assumption now. So they're trying to establish reasonable grounds without any facts or any evidence. This is what they do all the time now. Does that make sense? Are you following?
Yeah, she's
They
going
still
to
arrested you, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Yeah.
what
But
sort of
they're going to pay me some money soon, because that's the only way to make them accountable.
what sort of assumptions would they make if they're walking into a business? You know, say
Well,
a business.
they're going to make the assumption that you're a risk to public health. They're going to assume that you're aware of the legislation. They're also going to assume that the legislation's valid and that it applies to you. Okay, so they're going to make these assumptions because they are kept ignorant for a reason. The police don't know. They don't even know that the Victoria Police Act, Section 51, is really clear. I don't know. Can I share screen?
Please do. I'm just
You know
checking.
Yeah.
what I will
Yeah.
do, I'll look up a couple of things and I'll show you. But and this is just stuff that I've you know what, I'll look up the Victoria Police Act and I'll bring it up. But basically the Victoria Police Act, Section 51, says that all police have powers and duties as constables at common law. So what's a constable at common law? Well, you look at the Australian Legal Dictionary, and it tells you that a constable at common law cannot be directed by the government. So, you know, you got to ask yourself, well, why are they being directed by the government when there's a provision in their own act that says they can't be?
Is that similar to the difference between sergeant and two different types of police? And I think what you said then, when you say to someone, are you a constable or are you a sergeant or something? I've heard that said before, because that makes a difference on how they can actually treat you.
Yep. I'm just going to find this definition for you. Give me a second. Constable.
When you talk of the legislation, while you're looking for that, when they're coming in, which legislation are you talking about? Any
legislation. It always applies to, you got to look at the definitions. It always applies to persons and entities and whatnot. It doesn't apply to people, and it usually contradicts. If you can find a contradiction somewhere between the like if you oh, here we go, I've just found it.
Which you can always find.
All right, so what I'll do, I'll just share screen. Give me a sec.
I've given you power to do that.
Oh, awesome. All right. Yes, I have power. All right, so can you guys see that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so if we go, this is Victoria Police Act. So if you go to Section 51, Victoria Police Act, Section 51, duties and powers of police officers. A police officer who has taken and subscribed the oath or made the subscribed affirmation under Section 50 has the duties and powers of a constable at common law. So that's the important bit right there.
Huge.
Okay. Now, okay, I'm going to share the definition of constable at common law. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Constable, an independent office dating back to at least the time of Henry I in England. A constable has independent authority to exercise his or her office. A constable cannot be directed by the government. So government directives are a no-no, and there's case law for that as well. Or senior police as to who he or she should prosecute. A constable's duty is to enforce the law is a personal responsibility, and the constable is answerable only to the law and not to his senior officers for the performance of that duty. And this is a really interesting case, R versus the Commissioner of Police, ex parte. This case, it was about the judiciary trying to direct the police to perform, and they weren't able to. All they were able to do, the only thing that the judiciary had the power to compel the police to or to direct the police was they could direct them to provide a what was it, like a report. That's it. That's the only power the judiciary had. Now, of course, the government has a bit more power, but it actually expressly says here that the government, that a constable cannot be directed by the government or senior police. Now, a constable is all police, sergeant, senior sergeant, all of it. Now, I know they're a corporation and they're all corporate officers, right? But they don't know that the police that you're going to be dealing with, and if they were to admit that, then they lose even more power, right, over us. So this is basically the go-to argument. So this is for Victoria. It'd be the same. So this is the Australian Nexus Lexis Legal Dictionary, right? So if you look at the New South Wales Police Act, it'll have something similar in there, right? So this is the go-to. Is your act valid? Is Section 51 of the Victoria Police Act valid? And they're going to say, well, yeah, okay. Have you read it? Why don't you read Section 51? So if they read Section 51, where is Section 51? They're going to see that they have the duties and powers of a constable at common law, and then you can explain what that definition is and how that you cannot be directed by the government or senior police, and the reason that they can't be directed by the government is because the government have to uphold the law as well. They are answerable as constables to the law. It's their duty is to enforce the law. If they're being directed by the government, it's called acting under dictation. It's really dangerous because it gives the government too much power and very little accountability. Because how do we get the police to then go and arrest the government? They won't. You imagine if we had evidence that the government were committing crimes, which we do have.
Yeah.
Can you get the police to go and arrest them? There's no police are going to arrest the government. Anyone in the government, they just won't do it, right? It'd be very hard to get them to. So they're being directed. So they're not upholding the law, and they're not balanced, and it's not equity, right? It's they have a bias towards the government, and the government's using them against us. So this is the argument to have. I think the main one is you're a police officer, yeah. So that means you're a constable at common law, yeah. Well, if you're a constable at common law, why are you being directed by the government? You don't have the power to do that. Also, they can't be authorised officers. It's too much power for them. The Public Administration Act doesn't allow for it because it's dangerous to give police officers too much power. They've already got heaps of power, and they're ignorant. Then you've got the other one that we've been dealing with, which is the other issue, which is police arresting people as authorised health officers. I know in Victoria, the Public Health and Wellbeing Act of Victoria, I know that doesn't allow for an arrest without a warrant. So how are they arresting people if the act doesn't, using that act, but the act doesn't allow for you to arrest without a warrant? So everything's wrong. You've just got to know how to navigate your way through it. So the first thing I always say is he who makes the claim bears the burden of proof. So you ask them to provide the evidence, right? Well, if you've made the claim, didn't you just said that I'm a risk to public health? We'll provide the evidence of that. Okay, sufficient evidence. Is there any actual evidence? And they say, well, you could be. Whenever they say could or maybe, then it's not factual, right? So they go, well, you could be, transmitting a disease. Do you know there's a pandemic? Go, I don't know. Don't watch the TV. not interested in the TV, and I don't believe what's on the TV. Maybe you should stop watching the TV. And I don't trust you. And I know I say things like that. I say, I don't trust you. I don't want to talk to you. If you get some evidence, though, that I'm a risk to public health, please show it to me. Because I don't want to cause any harm to anybody. And it's going to be hard for them to produce any evidence that you're a risk to public health. You know, they can say, well, the chief health officer said X, Y, and Z. Go, oh, are you being directed by the government? And they say, you know, and then they're going to say, yes, okay, well, that's acting under dictation. So you've got them. It's a trap. You just got to set them up with a trap. And you know, at the end of the day, they're going to do whatever they're directed to do anyway. But as long as you can evidence that you've asked the right questions and you've expressed the matters that you have against the police, because there's a legal maximum is, in order for a matter to be resolved, it must be expressed. You express the matter that you're a constable and you should not be being directed by the government. You've expressed it, and you can say, I want a resolution for that. What, you know, some sort of accountability. Why aren't you following your own act, the Victoria Police Act? And yeah, anyway, go on. Yeah.
Sorry. So you need to know when they're coming in to the business, whether they're a constable or what's the other one they could possibly be.
Doesn't matter. They're all constables. Sergeant,
all constables.
sergeant. The police commissioner is a.
I thought there was a difference.
They're all constables, because if we go back to the definition, this is in the Victoria Police Act, and it'll be the same in the other. It'll be the same in the UK. It'll be the same. It doesn't matter. A police officer. Okay. So that's any police officer who has taken or subscribed the oath or made or subscribed the affirmation under Section 50. So they've affirmed or they've made an oath to be an officer.
That's the umbrella.
The duties and powers of a constable at common law, the duties and powers. So what is this constable at common law? What is that? And then you look at the Australian legal dictionary for that definition, and we just looked at it. It's black and white in there. Constable cannot be directed by the government or senior police as to who he or she should prosecute. So they're meant to be accountable and have their own discretion, and they're meant to be only enforcing the law. So that way there's no bias, and it's not a conflict of interest. You're not going to have them, you know, just people with guns running around, you know, and doing somebody else's bidding. But that's actually what we do have, sadly. So this was taken down. I did 2 lives on Facebook where this got blocked when I brought this up, and then I tried to share it a number of times, and it got taken down as well. So then I shared it from Instagram across, and then I was able to keep it, you know, on my Facebook profile. So so they don't want people to know this.
You have to block yourself from the fact checkers.
Yeah, well, I mean, it'd be amazing if they fact check this. It's just their own acts and their own definition.
Don't worry, they fact check the truth and still call it conspiracy or whatever.
Yeah.
So okay then, Nick, so you've got your business open, the police come in, you've sort of, you know, if they're smart enough to know to say that, well, they will be now anyway. What happens next? What's usually the scenario? Because you've already had the scenario a couple of times. You've got some great videos out there. So give us an idea of how they're going to, especially now, I guess it's a little further advanced and some of them are getting a bit pissed off with the whole thing. So what will happen after you say that to them?
Well, that's, you just got to hold your ground there. You go, look, provide some evidence on a risk to public health, because I can provide evidence that you're going to, if you have your way, you're going to be a massive risk to my public health and my private health. Okay, so and I can prove that because I'll be able to establish that you closing my business down will cause me to be at a massive loss. Also, like say if you get benefits, right? I don't know, you know, it depends. Like I know in Australia we get benefits. Even the benefits don't fully, you know. I mean, I don't get paid. I got some benefits, right? Because they were. I ended up with from about 110 members in my gym to about probably 8 or 10, right? So it was a massive loss in, you know, and I had to do something. Well, it took 7 weeks for me to get any money from the government. So the government says we'll pay you. But what they've done is they're saying shut your business down, go and apply for Centrelink for some payments, and so the government will be liable. They'll pay you, so they'll keep you alive. They'll look after your family. But 7 weeks. Who's got money? Who's got 7 weeks of savings there to spend while they wait for the government to give them some money? Who has that? In my situation, I run my business like a foundation, so it's not really, it's not set up the way that most businesses are. So I didn't get any job seeker or anything, and I've got two rents, right? So it's very, very hard. And this is the sort of stuff that they're obviously doing to destroy small business. So if you've just got to be unrelenting. You need to be willing. It's because a lot of it is like with fighting, right? So if you're a fighter and you get in the ring and you fight in the cage, it's not always about who's got the most skill. It's actually who's got the bigger will. Like someone might have a lot more skill than the other fighter, but the other fighter just will not quit, and they won't stop. And they've got better conditioning and better cardio, right? So that will balance it the other way. Okay. Now, obviously, the police, they're just hired thugs. So they've got a job that because of their ignorance, they're just doing what they're told, and because they believe that it's right, because they've been told by somebody. You need to be able to convince them that it's wrong, and tell them I'm not backing down, and compel them to either assault you or hurt you or to let you go. And because that's the situation we're in, because they're going to do one or the other.
Yeah.
Like when I went to that train station that time and I was arrested, I thought that I'd be able to talk my way out of it. I thought, well, I'm not going to wear a mask, and I'll be able to show the police that I don't have to. I'll just show them what their own acts say, and they just didn't listen. So you'll get those idiots, right? And that's what we're dealing with. But I don't think there's any other way. They're throwing the people above, are throwing the ignorant police under the bus, and they're letting them commit the crime so that the people above are not accountable. Because if you look at the Act and you look at the because all of this stuff that I just showed you, the Victoria Police Act and the definition of constable, that's still valid. That's still valid at law, right? So, and the government, have they said that it's not valid at law? Have they? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, they might have. Maybe they have, but I think my understanding is that they will put the loopholes there. They'll leave the acts the way they are, and they'll just convince the people that are in positions of power that are ignorant to commit the crimes to get their way. And that's what's happening. So they're, I've got a place where I used to get my hair cut. They're closed down. Butchers I used to go to get my meat. They've closed down. A fruit shop I used to go to, they're closed down, right? They've all closed in my area. So that's 3 businesses that are they're gone.
I thought they're essential businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah, they shut down.
So, Nick, you were saying something correct before, because, you said you can talk with the legislation and everything to them. I think whether they even know that or not, they have a job and they're still getting paid to do the job, unlike a lot of people. So it's like, I have to do this or else I'm out of a job and then I'm going to be in the same situation. So whether they believe it or not, they're still going to have those thoughts. So it will go to the next thing, and it will become like what you said, arrest, or I don't know about the assault part. So let's just say they go in, you do everything, you show the legislation, you give them the story, I've got to, do my rights and everything like that. And I've seen a few people get this far. I didn't actually see anyone get arrested. I saw them get fined. So what would be the normal thing in Australia, do you think?
Yeah, so you just, you go, look, if you want to send a fine, I'll just send it back. But, and just speak to them and say, look, if you can provide some evidence that there's an actual law that I'm breaking, then present it. Present the evidence. Show me. Because I don't believe there is. And then they'll say, well, the Chief Health Officer's directives. Okay, well, how does it apply to me? Explain how it applies to me. Because what you're doing is effectively going to harm my whole family, my livelihood, and the future of my future earning capacity. So you're going to damage all of those. You need to provide some legitimate evidence for me to be convinced that you are right. Because I don't believe you're right. I don't believe it. And I've got evidence to prove that. Okay. I can, so have you got evidence to prove and verify your belief? It's good to have no trespass signs on your business. It's good to learn how to operate in the private realm. Okay. So, you just do it. It's by invitation only. Okay. Which means you may have to take down your whatever advertising you've got available, but you can't on public forums, but then you can have someone else do it for you, and just someone that's a friend of yours, that just does it for you. And you go, and they go, oh, I didn't do it. Oh, is there a website there that's it's being shared on public forum? Oh, I didn't do that. Okay, so it takes it out of their hands. So there's things like that you can do, because you do lose business when you're not using those public forums, because everybody goes to the Facebooks and the.
There's another thing we've discussed recently, which is very similar along the lines that you're saying. We were talking with Alex about it, was in regards to, he said, you as a living man or woman have the right to earn an income on your own. So you could almost like literally rent the premises off the business, do take your signs down and everything like that. So say if you're a barber or something like that, and just start cutting hair or doing what whatever you might do. I doubt maybe every single business could do this, and you're just doing it as a living woman, man type thing.
You do it as an outcome, not an income. You've got an outcome for the community. So my energy is used as an outcome for the community. And it was my friend Darren that taught me this years ago. And he said, she just said, I don't have an income, I've got an outcome. And the outcome is that I want to do something, I want to give my energy to something that helps the community. Now, it's obvious that I haven't paid tax for years, because if I had to pay tax for all those years, I wouldn't have been able to survive, right? It's and I'm not going to launder money like a lot of the other gyms do, because that's what gyms do. A lot of them launder money. A lot of restaurants launder money as well, because it's so hard to make a living otherwise. So I had to find another way. You've just got to I wouldn't say that I'm the living man thing. I wouldn't use that there. But I mean, you can say I'm a man, but I mean, or a woman, but just say, the labourer is worthy of his hire, okay, and I'm labouring, and do you own my body, my labour? I mean, you can always ask these sorts of questions. At the end of the day, though, ignorant police are not going to listen. They don't care.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where you just have to hold your ground. And you know what? Don't be aggressive with the police.
Yeah.
Unless they're being aggressive to you and you have the army there to back you, but if you 9 times out of 10 you won't. So you want to just say, look, if you can provide the evidence, go ahead, provide the evidence. I want some tangible evidence. And if you can't provide the evidence, well, then you're not verifying your claim, which means your belief is not valid, which means you have no reasonable grounds. Take the reasonable grounds away from them and make sure it's recorded. And you know what? I tell you, they can't win in a court that way. They cannot win if you can prove that you've asked them for the evidence. They made the claim. I asked them for the evidence. And I said, I will not shut my business down unless they're, and they might say, well, but there's a pandemic around. So, first I've heard about it, you're assuming that I know all about the pandemic. You're assuming I know what the rules are. Okay. You're making assumptions again. You know what I mean? This is where you don't give them any information that you just tell them what you want them to know. Okay. Here's the evidence. I asked them these questions. They've made assumptions. If you can prove they've made assumptions, they don't have reasonable grounds. They assumed that I knew what the legislation was. They assume that it's obviously valid and you can even say, look, I didn't know about this, all the rules. I didn't know them. I didn't know that. And then you could say, and now then I've looked at the legislation and I don't think it's valid anyway. So I think that I put it to the police that what would you say? They're applying legislation in the incorrect way. And they're causing me to be a loss. They're not accepting liability for my losses, so they're harming me. This is harm. This is, it's lawlessness what they're doing, and they're saying that I'm compelled, but I'm compelled to shut my my livelihood down, and my family has to starve because of a pandemic that I don't believe exists. And there's evidence to prove that it doesn't exist, or maybe you could say I don't even know that it exists. Or I wasn't aware that it existed.
So they will accept that and say, well, now you do, which is, has happened in certain situations as well. So we want you to now shut down your business because we've given you what it's all about. You're refusing or whatever. You've learned everything that you've needed to say. So as I said, they're going to arrest you or they're going to fine you.
Well, no,
so one, they'll fine you and just send you the fine, or the next I'll take you down to the police station and fine you, and then you come back and open up again and carry on.
That's probably what you're going to have to do. But at the same time, you've got to be writing letters to the
Yeah.
Commissioner of Police, and then demand letters. And then after those 3 demands, you build your case up, you write everything down, you write down the dates, the times, that everything happened in a little book, or a big book, okay? And you put everything down, and then you've got to be filling up the courts with it, taking them to court, you know, and use affidavits. Affidavits are fantastic. You'll have power in an affidavit. So, you know, just keep and build it up, because there's heaps of people doing it. Otherwise, you know, and you have to be willing to go all the way, you know, like the legal maxim. It's I think the Bible verse is, you know, he who endures to the end shall be saved, right? Or he who leaves the battlefield first loses by default. So so if you just give up, oh, you know, it's getting too hard. They've basically set up the game, because it's the game. They think it's a big game. You know, that's why they have a left and a right. You know, that's why they call it a court. That's why they have defaults, just like they have faults in tennis, right? So it's a big game. And what they've done is they've made it where in this particular game, or this stage of the game, you have to go all the way. And most people won't do that. So we need people to build up that mental toughness and the confidence to go and do that.
Now, they have charged some people $6,000 in fines and things like that. So if people get a bit worried, oh my God, I can't pay that, or something like that, whatever their reasons may be, in the long run, they don't have to pay that, do they? Follow the procedure.
Well, I think they threw out all the Victorian fines now. Mm-hmm. They've thrown out. I know they threw out most of them. I think they threw out the rest as well. So I received 4 fines, and I've never received any. I haven't received anything else. Any follow-up letters, you know. So I don't think any. There are some people that have, and I think that maybe they would go through the police footage, and anyone that they think that they might be able to win, you know, against, because maybe they asked the right questions, or, you know, the victim said the wrong things. So I know some people that are going to court, but I think that's all been thrown out, because I haven't heard back from anyone, and it was on the mainstream media. Not that we can trust the mainstream media, but so the fines aren't back or anything. And at the end of the day, I mean, look, if we're going to be persecuted for the truth anyway, that's just how it is. So we have to accept that, and you know, and I reckon it's fun. I think it's fun. I enjoy it. So I don't look at it like, oh, you know, I hate this. It's so bad. I look at it like, oh yeah, this is fun. This is good. Yeah, I'm going to get those police. I'm going to, you know, I'm going to set them up, and I look at it like a fight. Like it's just the way you look at things. You can look at it half empty, half full. You can look at it like and say, you know what? This is making me learn the law. This is making me more resilient. This is building me up and forcing me to have to fight and learn how to fight for my rights and inspire others. So you can just, however you look at it, it's how it's going to motivate you. And you know, like it's motivated me. I reckon this has been the greatest year possibly in my life, but it's been the hardest too.
Yes.
Because, you know, we've been able to start. I really went almost full time into the ministry, and I've been able to help a lot of people to do things that, you know, they weren't confident to do. They didn't know that they could do. They didn't know they could challenge the government, and now they know that you know, you're a man, you're a woman, and actually you've got the power, but you've just got to have a knowledge. So you need to learn.
So Nick, I was watching when you were talking, you had the police out the front of your gym, but then you also had a guy there. I can't remember. I'm assuming he was from the council. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, he was the DHHS authorised officer.
Okay, so I could see it was really interesting to watch. So, but what happened after that? What was the ending of all that? Like, you know, he came to your business. I believe you've got a gym going here. We want to come in and have a look. You refused them entry. You stood out there talking until the sun come down. The police just stood back watching, because I guess they figured that he had the power to be able to do what he was going to do. What was the final outcome later? Because we don't always get to see everything. We don't.
Nothing. There was no final outcome. They just left.
They just left, and that was it.
Yeah. I actually know what they did. No, you know what they did? My wife came about a minute later. And all the police left except for two police cars stayed there. My wife came in and she went to pick up one of the guys that was behind the fence. There was two people behind the fence.
Yep.
She went to pick him up and drive him home because he's a young kid. And anyway, the police pulled her over and started questioning her, and then they arrested her for a minute because she wasn't going to tell them anything, and then they let her go a minute later. It was just to like show that we've got the power. Yeah, they were just being pricks. So that happened, and that's it though. Nothing else. I received a fine that was like screwed up and it was in the fence, just screwed up in an envelope in the fence. That's it. That's it. And nothing else happened.
So you're still operating today? You still got your gym open?
Yeah, well, the restrictions are gone, but I opened the whole time through. I didn't close at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with you being open, how did you get some of the clients to actually come? Like, I mean, some people would have been scared. Did some come that still wanted to wear masks? Hey, hang on a sec, they're not wearing a mask, so I'm not going to come. How did you deal with all that?
We just made it a place for people that don't want to follow the COVID, compliance rubbish. So, there was no, we don't do that signing in garbage that they do. There's no, just no COVID compliance. And because, I know a lot of people were coming in. I still didn't have big numbers, but I had a lot more numbers. You just got to be a bit more active, I think, at where you get people from. So you go to meetings or events, or you get on these like Zoom calls like this, and you discuss things, and you let people know, my gym's open. I'm in Cranbourne. Come down. You're welcome. Police aren't welcome. Council's not welcome. DHHS, they're not welcome, and that's on the sign. I have signs at the front, and I have good cameras out the front as well, so that helps.
Yeah.
It's good to have the surveillance there.
Yes.
And then the police were they were actually parked at the front of my gym, and they couldn't cut that. The gate was open, so they could have came in, but they would have been breaking the law, and they didn't. They just hung out the front and would stay there to scare people away.
That was my next question, because, we talk about the trespass signs and to have them at all your entry points. So, depending, if you've got a business, you can put a trespass sign up there that says no police, no council, no whatever, but customers obviously allowed her in. So how, or would it just be a complete trespass sign, but you'd choose how to let people in? So just forget your business, because you had a gate and you would know your clients. Let's think of another business and they want to open, but they want to make sure that the police can't come in and harass them. Can they put a trespass sign up on their, say, window, and the police can't walk into their business with that sign there? Is that?
Yeah, they can't. They can walk past the gate. They've got like an implied right of entry, but they don't have like to your door, but they don't have an implied right to come in without reasonable grounds. But remember, they don't know what reasonable grounds is.
Yes,
right. That's your issue, right? So you've got to be willing to assert yourself and say you don't have reasonable grounds, and you need to be able to quote word for word George versus Rocket. There's one section that I might bring it up actually.
Yeah, do so, because if people see a visual, it makes them follow it up easier.
Yeah, I'll have a look for it.
Because I have sort of written it down.
You can just replay it back. That's what I always do. Replay everything and pick up from that.
Yeah.
But can I just, is there a definition for reasonable grounds? Can I just ask that, Nick?
What's that?
Is there a definition for reasonable grounds?
Yeah, well, this is the definition for it at law. I'm just going to find the case. Give me a sec. All right, it's coming up now. This is on the Community Law Research Association website, and this is where I first started learning about the law. So what I'm going to do, I'll close that. So I'm not real savvy with the computer, guys.
So you use this as a resource quite a lot.
What's that?
Did you say this is one of your resources?
This is this used to be a group. Well, they're still active, and they run meetings, monthly meetings. And I used to start learning the law with this group. But
George versus Rocket,
yeah, hang on, I'm just looking for the
1990.
I'm trying to find. I had it just a moment ago. I've got a new computer, so.
Oh yeah, reasonable grounds to issue a search warrant. As the High Court noted, the requirement for reasonable grounds opens the decision to judicial review.
All right, here we go. There it is. So I'm going to close this. Should come up now. Here we go. Can you see that?
Yep.
All right, so if we go down, it's 8. Okay. All right. When a statute prescribes that there must be reasonable grounds for a state of mind, including suspicion or belief, it requires the existence of facts which are sufficient to induce that state of mind in a reasonable person. Okay, that's the important bit there. Okay, reasonable grounds, suspicion and belief require the existence of facts, and not just any fact, sufficient facts to induce that state of mind. This is what the whole battle's over. Police come in and say, we believe you're committing an offence. Okay, what offence am I committing? Well, you're a risk to public health. You're not following the Chief Health Officer's directives. Okay, how so? Well, you need to close your business down. Do I? Okay, so has the Chief Health Officer made a directive for me to starve? Okay, are you going to pay for my losses?
That's harm to yourself.
You know? Yeah. So it's just, you've got to hold your ground here. You know, they might say, oh, you've got to wear you have to wear a face mask. You know, okay. Is there any such thing as an exemption? Does that exist at law? And they go, yeah, it does. Okay. All right. Well, I got an exemption. Oh, we'll provide the evidence. I go, actually, I don't have to provide the evidence because he who makes a claim does, but that's man to man. But because you've got a common law right to not speak to police, and that's in Victoria, that's in a Supreme Court case. What's the case? DPP versus Hamilton. I see, and you know, we don't have to speak to them. We have the right to not self-incriminate. That exists in all states. And you're under no obligation to speak to them. I'm not going to give you anything. And if they say, well, why not? If you were innocent, you would tell us something. No, I don't trust you. I think you're up to no good. I don't think you're trustworthy. I don't think I think you're a bad egg, and I'm not going to tell you anything. And that's it. You just hold your ground to that. You got to be like that, because these people are pricks. They don't care about you. They just care about, you know, prosecuting people, and it's sport for them. Oh, let's prosecute them. Let's get them. You know, I mean, I know police officers used to, that would talk about how they you know, belted someone up, and you know, they love it. A lot of these people, they just don't. Yeah, that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with, you know, people with a really you know, very, very corrupt mind.
So, Nick, so in Victoria now it's okay. I mean, we're pretty sure it'll probably come back again in the near future, because they're doing like a cat and a mouse type of thing. It's like hit you with the lockdown. You guys got the big one in Victoria, but now they just finished one in WA, but it was sort of very short. So WA hasn't really experienced completely what maybe Queensland or especially Victoria's gone through. But I'm sure they're going to come back, because this isn't sort of finished. They were very lenient with the WA one, but then that might be just, okay, let's just give them a taste, see what happens, how they react, and now let's come back with the bigger one. So they're going to be going into that thing, and if they're smart enough, they will know what to do at the beginning. Don't just step into it and wait and wait and wait and give them excuse to, you know, to really hurt them, but to do it right from the start, learning from Victoria's you know, role that they played in it, and from others. So was there any other businesses out there like you, when you were doing it, that did the same thing?
Yep.
And then in doing that, like if it happened to WA again, how would they start this? You know, should just single solidarity on their own, or as a group solidarity? I'm not using the right words here, but you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you've got to be able to do it yourself. because you don't have help when the police turn up to your house. And what do the police operate in? Fear. They love to cause fear. They came to my gym again with 18 police cars and a truck or like a big van thing, and the media all at once. Yeah, they did, and we weren't even there. And then the mainstream media reported that police had quashed an anti-masker meeting at a Cranbourne gym, and there was no anti-masker meeting. There was no meeting. We weren't even there. We were watching it live on Zoom while this was all happening, because our apparent anti-masker meeting was actually on Zoom. It wasn't at the gym, but that didn't stop them from making up the story.
Yeah,
they're liars. Now, am I compelled to support a man in his lie? Does the law compel me to do that which is impossible? I mean, that's another one to use, right? That's a maxim of law. The law doesn't compel anyone to do the impossible, right? So if it's going to be impossible for me to shut my livelihood down and not cause serious harm to me, then I can't do it. The law doesn't compel people to seriously harm themselves. They've never done that. But what they're doing is they're trying to compel you to do that. Does the law compel me to be a hypocrite? Because I believe that what they're doing is false. It's a lie. And because that's what my belief, regardless of whether I'm right or wrong, I truly believe that it's a big lie. And for that reason, if I was to do it and follow these directives, I would be a second witness to a lie, and I would be a hypocrite. So you've got to just have these sorts of arguments and logical, reasonable arguments. At the end of the day, criminals are going to do what criminals are going to do. It's good to have, all the businesses around that, find out who's, do a bit of networking, find out who's on the same page. Go in, and a way to do that, if you don't know them, is you go and you have a chat with them, and you give them like a no trespass notice and say, that you can put this up, and here's someone to give, just give it to them. And explain to them that their rights, and that they don't have to police people with face masks. They don't have to police any of that. That's not their job, because they're not being paid to do it. Okay, is the government paying these businesses money for all the COVID compliance?
not all of them. Some are getting some business thing. It's funny that you mentioned what you did just then, because the girls here have done all that, set up a whole thing of maybe not everything like yours, but to go out and take to businesses. Now, when Sharon was out doing that sort of physically, she had a security guard from a shopping centre come up and tell her she can't legally go into businesses and hand out pieces of paper.
Yeah, it's not true.
Yeah, that was funny. They said we're not allowed back in the shopping centre. It was quite funny. We were like, you said the sign out the front that said they had the right to refuse any business, so we're not allowed to go back in there with pieces of paper. It's hilarious. But anyway, it's quite funny. So we've been back in there a couple of times, but it's the shopping centres with the security guards. They seem to have undercover cops and everything that pick you up very quickly.
Yeah. It's interesting. Just go in there and buy something and say, hey, did you want one of these? And give them one. But you're actually you're doing business, right? So they can't say that you're doing something else that you can.
It's a good idea.
Yeah,
It could get expensive depending on the business.
Yeah.
The only problems we have is in the shopping centres with the security, and they're saying you have to go to centre management, which they won't approve. So we just hand them out. Every time I go to a shopping place, I just hand them out. And it's with all the acts as well, with the QR codes and legislation. So there's plenty of loopholes in there, just pointing out what's right and what's wrong.
Well, it's the same argument that you use for the COVID compliance with the that you use for the GST, the goods and services tax that we have here in Australia. It's that, how can you compel me to work for you and do this work, this labour, because it's a labour, and not pay me and compensate me for it? Okay. And then if they're gonna, if you sign your name to something and you do get some money for doing it, then that's one thing. But I don't want to sign my name to anything with the government, because I don't want to be in contract with the government. I don't trust the government, because you shall be known by your acts and action, and the acts and actions of the government are dishonourable. And for that reason, I won't enter a contract with them. So they can't compel you into a contract. And there are probably people that are getting some money for their COVID compliance, whatever it is, consumables that they've got to provide, or whatever it is, all the extra work they're doing. But they would be in contract with the government. Well, I don't want to be in contract with the government, and you don't want to be in contract with the government with your business. So I'm not going to sign anything with the government, and you can't compel me to do anything without that contract.
There's actually incentives now for people to sign up businesses. I noticed the other day someone sent me a little text message saying that they're encouraging businesses to sign up, and they're giving credits, to people that do so many cafes that they go to and swipe in. They're giving them like $25 vouchers. It's hilarious.
Oh, it's just Roman
More
bribery,
money.
isn't it? Roman bribery. Well, if we can't logically get the people, we'll just bribe them, because
We'll
there's
just
more
keep giving more money.
immoral people around that will accept the money and go, I'll do that for the money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it's the first time I sit back here, and I do what I can from here, because I'm not over there and dealing with any of that, which sometimes I feel like I miss out. And so I listen to everybody's stories and everything like that. It's got, damn, what would I do if I was there, and all that sort of stuff. So the other day we went to a spa pool here, because it was the first sunny day in 4 weeks, so I hadn't been out of the house. And we get there, and the first thing she does is tell me to park my car around the other way, and I automatically nearly went to do it, and I went, no, what does it matter which way it's parked? Like, rules, come on, like, in Bali. And then she said, well, wash your hands over there. So I did do the washing of the hands, because it wasn't the spray sheet, which I won't use. But then as we're walking up the stairs, I turned back, and my little Balinese family is standing there, and she's got a pen and paper. I said, what are you doing? And I'm at the top of the stairs, and I said, no, do not give them your name and phone number. I said, that is private. I said, that is none of their business. She was taking the name and phone number. That's the first time I've seen her since, well, probably because I don't go very much. But, I sort of was like, wow, I finally got to use the Privacy Act thing.
You see how what they're doing is they're pushing everything to the very limit that they can, right? Mm-hmm. It's like you can record like people in the public, right, with your camera. But you see at some of these protests, like especially the really far left sort of Antifa kind of protest, you see those people will put their hands up right in front of your camera so that you can't film. I've seen people doing that, and they go, well, we're allowed to do that as well. So you see that they're progressively pushing the boundaries of what they can get away with. That's all it is. And they can ask you for your name and address. They can dress up as though they're someone that's really important, and say, well, you have to give us your name and all your private information. You have to. They can say that, but it's all the charade. It's not real. If you know who you are, and you've got to be confident. What happens is when police turn up to people's businesses, most people get filled with fear and dread. You need to get past that, and you need to just go, hi officer, how are you? And stay very calm. How are you going? Yeah.
Well, Christmas Day we had lunch down near the beach, and the place was full. And I don't wear a mask, but if I have to, I'm very careful to do that, because, you don't want to be thrown out. But we're eating, and next minute about 25, I don't know what they were all dressed up like soldiers or whatnot, not so much police, walked into the restaurant. Everyone started grabbing masks and putting them on. I'm going, what the hell's going on? They said there's whatever, like they're checking or something. And I thought, I sat there and I thought, I can't do it. I can't put my mask on. Yeah. I said, just tell me if they're coming over this way. I said, because I had my back to them. But, it's just sort of really funny. That fear factor you're talking about went straight into, and we're all Westerners.
And that must be hard in Bali.
Yeah, probably would be, because it's a bit of a different jurisdictional situation.
You can't sort of muck around like you can in Australia, I suppose. It's a different language.
No, not at all. No, you do what you can. Like, you can. That's what I say. I just don't go out, then I don't have to worry about it. But if I'm going into a restaurant, I don't, because I'm going to eat. So what? Just put it on, take it off. Put it on, take it off. I saw a video of someone going like this and putting a thing in their mouth. So just using that as well too, because there will be some businesses that think that they have to tell people to wear masks, and that they have to take the QR codes, and that they they have to ask for their exemptions or see their exemptions. I'm pretty sure a lot of people would know that you can't, and that's what we've sort of been putting out there. But maybe you could just elaborate on that for a business to know when you are open, this is pretty much what you don't have the right to do, even though you think you do.
Yeah, they can't force you to like, because once again, the law does not compel a man to do that which is impossible, right? It's a law, it's a maxim of law, right? So if you're already struggling in your business, and they're going to put a heavier yoke on top of they're going to seek to put a heavy yoke on top of you, eventually it's going to cause early death of your business, right? It's going to cause the business and we're operating in commerce, right? So that which is impossible in commerce would be to do more than you have the capacity to do. So I'm already, you just got to say, I'm already struggling. It's very hard for me to survive as it is with all these restrictions and the economy's damaged. And now you want me to do all this extra work. And they might say, oh, it's easy. You go, well, you say it's easy. Not easy for me. I find it very, very hard. Plus, I think it's all a lie. I don't believe that it's necessary. And and you just got to have a good argument there that's logical and reasonable, and hold your ground on it, and don't ever lie. Hold your ground on the truth, or don't tell them things you don't want them to know, because you don't have to, you're not obliged to. But you're definitely not compelled. They might say, well, they might even, in some states, they might have people that come out to set up all the COVID compliance garbage. Well, you don't want anyone in there. You've got your privacy rights. Remember the Privacy Act and the Privacy Act. We have the same thing in Western countries. I don't know which Western country you're in. The common law countries, they pretty much are. I think civil law, they have the same. That privacy it's pretty much the same thing. It's defined the same, right? So we've got those rights. I'm not going to relinquish those because you want me to do something that I don't want to do. I don't want to do it. I don't believe you've got reasonable grounds to make me do this. I'm struggling already. I know the law doesn't compel me to do that, which is impossible, but I think you're trying to make me do that, which is impossible. I don't have the capacity to do it. Mm-hmm. Oh, are you trying to destroy my business? And they go, no, it's the law now. What the law is compelling me is going to destroy my business. Wait, how can the law destroy my business? I don't think I think that they have the power to do that at law. I think you have the power to do that at law. Then they might say, well, no, we can help you. There might be an assistance line. There might be this, call these people, whatever. You've just got to stop them with a reasonable argument and hold your ground and not let them in. Okay. It doesn't mean that they won't commit a crime against you. They force their way in. I mean, what are they going to do if they come in anyway?
Fine you or arrest you. They can't hold you.
Exactly. Right. So, just cop it on the chin, hold your ground. Don't let the fear get in though. The fear is the one that's the thing that wears people out. People get scared. They get a lot of fear, and then they dread it, and then they're worrying about the police. Oh, there's police coming. Oh, they might be police. Or don't worry about it. What can they do? What's the worst thing the police can do? Give you a fine.
Or a bit of time.
And when I say assault you, what I mean is they might push their way through if you don't let them in. They're not going to belt you out. Although, they have done that to some people. Actually, they have.
Can they go to your customers if you've got customers there and intimidate them and fine them?
They're not meant to do that, but they could do it. Doesn't mean they wouldn't do it. I mean,
and they're stepping out of line.
Yeah. That's our battle. That's the battle.
Yeah.
And then after that, every one of those customers that they might put the fear into, go and speak to them and explain to them that there's a remedy and there's a solution, and you don't have to worry about the fines. They're not actually legitimate. So, and give them some information, have something to give to them. Make that your COVID, instead of the COVID compliance, create some sort of education, platform in your business, because you're going to have to educate
about the
people.
Apple Store?
What's
the
that?
Apple Store,
they're disgusting.
The Apple Store, who just are ridiculously over the top in relation to.
They don't care if you got an exemption.
Yeah, they are Gestapo. I mean, I don't particularly go. I'm just giving an example. I don't need to go, but for people that do need to go, I'm going to, they've got the monopoly on Apple phones, Apple computers, things like that, and you have to make an appointment. And their thing is you've got to wear a mask, or they serve you outside.
What Samsung should do is offer a really good special on their phones at like $10. We all take the iPhones and put it in front of Apple and burn them, and then get the really cheap Samsungs and then see how they go.
It's not a fair game, right? Like we think the game's rigged. Okay? So, but it's either we die, or we die slowly, or we survive and we battle. There's no other option. I mean, there's no. Well, that's not fair. What are we going to do about this? Well, there's nothing you can do, because Apple are just pricks. Nothing you can do about it.
Remember, we were once Vikings.
you know. So yeah, you can
Somewhere.
yeah, exactly. We can
And Nick, this is because we're sort of pretty coming close to the end now. We've got most of everything that we wanted to suss out. And I had something just in my head just then, and now it's gone just because I was saying that. So, don't you hate that? It was to do with the fact that, no, I have to think about it. So keep talking so I can
Can I
get
ask a question? Nick, on your video with the outside your gym, I was really taken with that, the Crimes Act 24 in good faith.
Oh, Section 24F. They removed repealed it, but they put it in the Criminal Code Act Section 80, I think, 83 or 80. But
Can you elaborate on that one, please? Because that's
Oh, it's just that you can question the actions of the government in any regard if you think they're wrong. You have the right to do that. Well,
I tried at the border, and I'm going to use that in court.
Yeah, and the reason that the Crimes Act's a good one is because even though when they repeal something, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist anymore. It just means they hide it, so that as long as you still know it's there, it's still there, it still exists. And the Crimes Act was under the it's under a different jurisdiction to the Criminal Code Act. The Criminal Code Act's under the like the Queen of Australia, as opposed to the actual proper de jure crown. So that's why we use that one.
Yeah, it's a perler. I like it. Thank you.
Yeah, but I mean, to sum up, basically, you want to ask them if the police come to your business, your gym, your restaurant, whatever. Be very polite to them. Be nice to them. Okay, and then just ask them if they ask a question, like if they make a claim. Just ask them for the evidence. Look, can you provide some evidence to verify your claim? You know, you've said that I'm at risk of public health. How am I at risk of public health? Everyone in here is healthy. We're all healthy. You're not doing whatever the new protocols are. Okay, well, I don't believe I need to do those new protocols, and I haven't been paid to do those new protocols, and I haven't been trained in these new protocols, and I don't believe they work. Can you provide some evidence that would, confirm to me in my state of mind with some actual facts that I'm compelled now to do X, Y, and Z, and you just got to speak to them like that and say, look, and when you provide that evidence, I'll do it. So you conditionally accept it. Yeah, I'll do it when you provide the evidence. He who makes the claim bears a burden of proof, so provide the evidence. I think it's all a big lie, and I think you're being used as a tool to implement this criminal agenda. And then you've got that other argument, say, like look in whatever state you're in and look at the act, the police act, and just find the definition for their duties and their duties and powers. And you'll see it in common law countries, it's a constable of common law, and just say constable of common law is, and I think, I don't know what the definitions will be like in every country, but I would assume they would be the same, that they cannot be directed by the government or senior police, because that is a conflict of interest and it's very dangerous. That's how we end up with a Nazi-like situation, because you've got the government and the police together when they shouldn't be. It's called acting under dictation. So look up acting under dictation as well. And you just got to hold your ground and say, look, I'm not going to let you in, but you do it in a nice way. Say, look, I don't trust the government, so I'm not going to let them destroy my business, because ultimately that's what they're going to do. The law does not compel me to do that which is impossible, but it seems as though you want to compel me to do that which is impossible. So I think you're breaking the law by doing so. Please provide some evidence to verify your claim before you try to enforce such measures upon me and my family, my business, because I don't believe I'll be able to come back from this, because I think that what you're doing is it's actually wrong, and it's not lawful. Just give them that and just see what they say. You might get really arrogant, aggressive police. You might get police that are okay. And just say to them, look, speak to your senior officers. Ask them. Maybe get that definition that I shared in here. Look it up. Get a copy of it and look for whatever section of in the whatever state's police act that you're in. Put them together and give it to the police. Have something for the police to give them. Did you know that you're not meant to be directed by the government? Because if you're being directed by the government, you're not actually enforcing the law correctly. It's unbalanced. It's actually very frightening. So I want you to be aware that I think you're being used to commit crimes against us. And And I
If
don't know
they're
if you're aware.
if it's the cops that wear the black outfit, I call them the robo cops
Oh,
from the
yeah.
UN, they won't give a shit anyway.
No.
Nick, robo cops. They're actually very aggressive and very violent. And I don't know whether they're putting an act on for the camera or what. We know there's been some really fake videos out there, but people just don't realize it. And that's really to put the fear as well.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things I just want to finish off with. We have JobKeeper. So businesses are getting paid JobKeeper to help pay their staff. So they feel comfortable at the moment. So I think, no, I'll just wait for this to pan out. At the end of March, JobKeeper finishes. What are those businesses going to be able to do then? Like, you know, they're going to be in a situation that they might be at a point where, well, I can't survive now for sure.
They should be back in business, and they should be getting the JobKeeper or whatever payments they can get. That, you know, when I say whatever payments, like whether it be you know, I get Job Seeker because they won't give me JobKeeper because it's a foundation setup that I have, right? But I just look at it very simply. The actions of the police and government have caused me to be a massive loss, and they've forced me to have to accept that payment. I don't have any other choice. And it actually, it's going to bring the liability of the government and the police down by them paying me some of those losses back. And you just take it into account when you taking the task afterwards. This is my losses, but you paid me this much. You take that away from the overall losses. But if they're not setting up their businesses now to be back in full swing, they're probably not going to make it.
Yeah, that's what I was sort of thinking.
Unless they've got savings or sponsors that are going to help them, they should be setting up now, and while they're getting that payment, and trying to set up everything that they need to set up. Whether they might need to get new new customers from a different law. You know, they might want to go completely in the private and get off the public forums, which means they're probably, I don't know what sort of business it is, but yeah, I mean, you've just got to be looking at those things. They're remolding society. They're changing it. So you want to have something that's kind of, because I always thought that having a martial arts, you know, fight gym was something that would be very hard to shut down. You know, like they can, you know, like your little hardware store, you know, they could just bring in these big, massive Bunnings, you know, oh, okay, the hardware stores are done, you know, all that sort of stuff, but you can't really make massive fight gyms that train fighters. You can't, it doesn't work. It's always been and you can't do it online. Can't, because online you can't learn properly online. You need someone with you that knows how to teach you. So, but then when this happened, we were the first ones to get shut down, along with the restaurants, and it was just amazed me. So it's obviously a big push to to shut down all the small businesses. The big businesses are doing fine because they have compliance departments that enable them to just to get. It's like they know everything before it happens, and they know what to do to make it look like they're doing something, and it doesn't affect them, and we're just left to, you know.
They
create the problem, the solution, and the what is it? They create the problem and the
action. Yeah, that's right. They create the problem, and then they, you know, and they create the solution for it. Yeah, that's all. I mean, it's obvious. It's coming to light. Those that have eyes to see can see it, but you know, we've just got all these zombies. We're in the zombie apocalypse. They're all over the place. They believe that, you know, what they believe is wrong. They've been overpowered in their mind. So that's the battle. It's a dividing of the wheat and the tares. You know, the righteous from those that aren't, the people that think and the people that don't, the people that want equity and the people that don't, the people that want security. You know, when they say peace and safety, you know, don't believe them, because it's not peace and safety. It's going to be the opposite. That's what they're setting up for us. And their small businesses are in the way because the small businesses aren't under the rule and thumb of the government the way that they would like them to be. Whereas if you get like all the big organisations, they are, because they're obviously part of it. All the big churches are all part of it. They all have, you know, COVID compliance. They're all, you know, have those tax-free exemptions, and they're all incorporated. A small business can be just a man or a woman, you know, providing a service or creating something and making money, and they don't have to know about any of that. You don't have to disclose any of that. So it's like they're going out looking for those small businesses. How do we knock them all off one by one? And like I said, three businesses in my area are closed that I used to use. You know, I used to get my hair cut at one, they're shut, and I used to get my fruit and vegetables and the butcher shut. And I don't know why the butchers and they're shut, but they're shut. They were in a shopping complex, but they're not there anymore. You know, whether they open back up, I don't know. But it's
so what we wanted was for businesses to understand everything that we've been talking about today. So they get all this, and they're sort of like, okay, this sort of sounds like, you know, something I should know, and I better start looking at how to do it. So we have common law Zoom calls and all that, and many people come, and they all come for different reasons. A person who owns a business that's struggling and they can see what's coming up, you know, in the very near future, if it hasn't already come up now, what would you suggest they do to get to know? It's easy watching a video, but it doesn't actually really help 100% on getting that strength, getting that firm conviction.
I've got templates on my website. It's www.john8.net, and it's got templates that explain how to deal with police if they turn up to your house. And I've got a number of different, or to your house or to your business. And you can just got to memorize some things. You got to stay. First thing, you got to stay calm. Always stay calm. Yep. Don't freak out and let the adrenaline kick in, because you'll lose. Fear, well, you know, you'll be overcome with fear. Don't let that happen. Stay calm. There's nothing really that bad they can do. They can give you a piece of paper where they write something that's threatening and it doesn't really do anything. And then you just got to ask them why they're there and what, you know, and get them to make the claim by asking them the question. Because once they make the claim, you can then you can follow up and say, well, provide the evidence. So, you know, why are you here, officer? And they say, oh, we believe that there's a suspected COVID breach. Oh, well, what would that be? And then they might say, you know, well, you're running a restaurant, and there's people in here, and you're transmitting, you know, whatever it is, you know, you might be transmitting a virus. I might be transmitting lots of things, but at the moment I'm just trying to transmit money between, you know, people for food. Right? Yeah, you just gotta like talk to them like that and say, okay, well, can you provide the law that compels me to shut my business down, and if you can provide me with some sort of way to get some accountability, because I'm going to be at a big loss if I close my business down. So who's going to be paying me for my losses? And then I have to talk to the government for that. And I go, no, but you're the one that's trying to shut my business down.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're doing it, you're going to be accountable. No, it's the government, mate. You know, you go, well, you know, I'm not going to shut down. If you're not going to accept any accountability, and you're trying to pass the buck to someone else, you know, I'm accountable for my sins. You know, I can't commit a crime and go get my mate to go to jail for it. So, you know, you're not going to commit a crime against me and shut me down. I don't believe you have the grounds for it. Okay, you can't produce any law that compels me to do it. Where's the law that compels me to do it? I know there's government directives, and you're not even meant to be directed by the government according to your own act, and the definition of your office doesn't allow you to be. Here, I'll give you here's a printout. This actually has the section of the act that expresses that you're a constable at common law, and here's the definition from the Australian Legal Dictionary that says you're a constable at common law. I just think it's really important to read that. And then if they go, oh, look, we'll have a look at it later, whatever, you just got to say to them, you know, you just got to say, well, I'm not going to continue talking with you. If you don't have the respect for me to read that document that I've given you, then I don't have the respect for you, and I'm not going to have any respect for you, and I want you to get out, okay? And you're trespassing. Or you can show me a bit of honour and respect, and actually read the document. And that way, you know, you got to know when to assert yourself. It's a game. You're going to have to go through the experience. You know, you're not going to be a professional fighter if you haven't fought. You've got to you know, be a novice. Then you're going to be maybe you become an amateur. Then you might have to get into pro leagues, and the pro leagues, really, that's when you're dealing with the you're in court, and you can you know, argue the point there and have a reasonable argument that gets you the result that you want. Shelley, did you put your hand up?
Yeah, I did. I just wanted to ask if you recently I became aware, and the government's made a recent statement on Serena. You've done a screen share there. I'm not sure if you're aware of
some
that.
kid having got no
That was
food.
just to say that they should also maybe appeal to their emotions and show them a picture of a child with a plate saying, are you going to put food on my child's plate?
Oh, okay, copy that. Join the dots.
Right.
Oh, sorry, Nick. Yeah, the government's recently made a statement in relation to common law that they're wanting to not recognise it anymore or pass some sort of legislation that it's not. They want to do away with it.
Of course, they want to do away with it. Okay, you know, but I mean, they want to do. I mean, that's. I mean, I'm a biblical guy. I don't know if anyone here is biblical. I'm very biblical, so I think, at the end of the day, lawlessness is going to happen at some point. So, if that's what's going to happen, I'm happy to be persecuted for the truth, and I believe that there's going to be a resolution later on. To the, you know, and accountability is going to be made, judgment's going to happen. But, you know, at the end of the day, they might just say, yep, that's not law anymore. Everybody's now, you know, we own all of you, and, you know, they could do anything. So we just need to be able to stand our ground with what we've got and fight with what we've got, be prayerful, and not be full of fear. They rely on fear. That's the biggest thing. I think if people don't have fear, like when I had my interaction with the police, I generally don't have fear. I'm pretty calm. I've had one where I let my anger get the better of me, and I shouted them down the street. I probably shouldn't have done that, but they kept knocking on my door at like midnight and 10 a.m. 10 p.m.
Oh, what?
Yeah, and I've got 4 kids, so I got angry.
That's harassment, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's what they do. But we're meant to, you know, biblically, we're meant to be happy because blessed are you when men persecute you and revile you for the truth's sake. For great is your reward in heaven. So I go, okay, so if I'm being harassed and all the rest of it for the truth, standing up for myself, well, then I'm doing the right thing. Yeah. Yeah. So
you just have a bucket, especially if you're upstairs, full of urine, and you just tip it out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. But you know, like,
sorry.
Yeah, I don't have, you know, I don't have a lot of respect for police now. I used to have some. I almost have none now, because it's almost as though they're just completely occupied. They're just empty vessels because they don't think for themselves. They're just, and it's satanic, right? It's that I do whatever I want. It's all about me. It's almost like solipsism. It's that religion of the self. It's all about me. I'm the only one that exists. They're not thinking about what's true and what equity is. And equity, they don't even care about equity anymore, which is, you know, in the Bible, the word inequity or inequity is the word for lawlessness. So equity is law. They don't follow it anymore. Well, that's all right. You don't have to follow it, because I don't have the power to make you, but I'm not going to follow your distorted view on what's right or wrong. I'm going to do what I know is right. Sorry, it's my dog. She just came. She's been outside for a while, so she's a puppy.
Maybe they've already had the nanobots put into them already, and they're controlled, and that's what they're just conditioned to be like.
Oh,
maybe anything's possible now with what we're doing.
But hang on a sec.
What will happen if your dog will see my cat?
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
It's a great dog, but she's she's full on though. She's a lot of energy.
Good dog for you.
Yeah.
Good match.
But always the conditional acceptance thing I've found has been really, really effective. Just to ask them, look, provide the evidence. Just provide the evidence. You know, it's a human rights violation to take away my right to live, to arrest me arbitrarily. I've got the right I've got the right to live. Okay. If you shut my business down, make me destitute, that would cause me early death. That's genocide. Okay. Because if I won't be able to get, I'm going to have, heightened stress levels. Okay. It's going to, I'm going to have to go without a lot of things that I need. And that's going to cause me to not live as long and not live as good a life. Are you going to be accountable for that? Are you going to accept accountability and liability for your damages? And obviously they're not going to accept it. Well, then if you're not going to accept any liability for my losses, then you can go, get out of my business, and or tell me what law I've broken. Provide some evidence that I've broken a law. Okay, and that's it. You just got to hold your ground on that, and whatever happens, happens. You don't have all the powers. It's all skewed in their favor, right? Not in our favor. So we have to be either really strong, or we just can be weak and just get trodden all over. You know, and I think of this really awesome Bible verse in the Bible that it says, "We're the salt of the earth, but if the salt's lost its savour, wherewith will the earth be salted? It's thenceforth good for nothing, only to be cast out and trodden under the foot of man." And I go, well, I don't want to be the salt that's lost its savour. So, you know, so I'm not going to let people trample all over me, because if they trample all over me, that would, by definition, I'd be being the salt that's lost its savour. I'm meant to actually stand up for the truth in this world and speak the truth to the best of my ability, and be you know, and always be willing to obviously learn and respect the police if they say something that's true and you get something wrong. Say, oh, okay, I didn't, because you see there are like a lot of belligerent people and videos out there where people are just abusive to the police. There's no reason to be just abusive and telling them, you know, that you're just a this or just a that, and that's because people get fear, and doubt and fear can cause the anger, and that can cause them to go to that emotional state where they start to and I learned a lot of this because I was a professional fighter, so I learned how to control fear very well, because when you go into fight in the cage, it's a big fight, you can be very, very nervous, and there's a lot of adrenaline, and I learned how to control that fairly well. It doesn't go away though. The adrenaline was always there, even when I had a lot of these big fights, even when I had lots of fights, it didn't go away, and I just got used to it. It was there, but I could manage it. Like, I didn't let it overcome me, and I could still maintain, you know, a calm, sound mind. And that's been a big help. And I've just tried to apply that to obviously interacting with the police. It's the same thing. They're there, that they will turn up with lots of people, like lots of officers there with their guns to make you scared. That will cause fear in most people. So what you've got to do is you've got to not be scared. Hi, how are you? You know, very hard for them to just violently abuse you if you're being very polite and kind to them. Yeah, can I get you a drink? Would you like it? You know, if you're at a restaurant, would you like something? Yeah, sure. I'll give you a glass. You want a drink? You could be polite like that. That might help some people. You've just got to work out how you're going to battle. You know, I think it's frozen up. Oh yeah.
So, one of the things that I'd sort of like businesses to know about, because we sort of belong to a few groups, we watch what's going on, but we don't really focus on all that shit that's happening. We focus on learning as much as we can about, you know, common law, how to use it, how to, you know, get other people to understand it as well. So one of the things that I've noticed is there's a group out there, it's just one of the ones that I see do it, Reignite Democracy. When we see a business actually open and you know, take that chance of opening, and they start getting abuse from people and everything, we have this thing where the people who are all for them opening put something out there, and then hundreds and hundreds of people, one, they come to your business, they support you, they go on your Facebook and support you, they push down the negative stuff that's coming from the sheep. So, you know, it's important that if people are going to be open, that they do actually put it out to a few people so they get that support. I feel anyway.
And even like people that you know, if you've got a like a community business where you're in the community, there are a lot of people that know you, just you know, you can provide ways that they might be able to you know, give you a donation or something. Yes. You know, where, you know, and if you're gonna, and make it obvious, like, so I'm going to stay open. I'm staying open. I'm fighting the fight because I know what they're doing is wrong. Anyone that wants to support me, please do, because I'm not going to make much money. And you can do things like that. And there's always people around that, like, you know, that maybe have money, like they might be working in some government department somewhere, and they're against what's happening. And they go, you know, I had people do it for me. They gave me money and they said, Nick, we can't do what you're doing, but we support you and we want you to take this. And they wouldn't say no. They had to take it. And it really helped me out. And that's the sort of thing that that can happen as well if you're out in the open and you're telling people. But you've got to, you know, what's the legal maxim? In order for a matter to be resolved, it must be expressed. If you've got a matter that you know, financial matter that you're dealing with, and you can't, you know, it's the police, will raise it with the people in your community and tell them, look, this is my situation. We're doing it pretty tough. If there's any way that you guys can support, you know, please do, because at the moment I'm trying to stand up for everybody. And you look at it like sponsorship, you know. please
Oh.
sponsor because that's what it is, you know. If you see if you can get sponsors for your business to sponsor your business while you fight and stand up to them, and that can help you to do that. I don't know if that makes, you know, sense with your businesses, but I know with mine that's pretty much because it was actually sponsors that I had when I was a fighter that was sponsored. They just continued sponsoring me when I was because I haven't fought for years, but they.
What was your name again when you were fighting?
Nick Banjo Patterson.
Banjo, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
So yeah, so that's it. Just the conditional acceptance is always and asking them to the first things I always do is be nice to them, ask them to you know what the issue is, what the problem is, and when they make the claim, ask them to provide some evidence for it, and then if they keep pushing it, say, look, I'm happy to do what you say on the provision that you provide the evidence that will compel me to be without. And that, you know, provide some evidence that there's a law that would compel me to shut my business when the government isn't accountable. Like where you know, where's that law that allows them to shut businesses without any accountability or liability? Because I don't think that exists. And even if it's legislation, that's not a law, and unless you've been to the you know, to the High Court or the Supreme Court, or then and it's been tested, it doesn't mean that it's legitimate. You don't have to worry about just because it's legislation. And then if you can, you know, get those. If you're in Victoria, it's easy. Just get that definition from the Lexis legal dictionary of the constable at common law, and even the section of the whatever state's police act that says this. It would say they'll all have the same wording in there. That they're a constable at common law, and then just print that out, maybe laminate them, so that when the police come in, you've got that for them. And you can give it to people that aren't police, because it's a great eye-opener for people when they see that on paper, and they see that, oh, okay, so police are all constables at common law, and the definition in the Australian Legal Dictionary is, you know, or the English, you know, whatever, you know, the Black's Law Dictionary, I don't know, whatever country, it's common law country, and then they'll see that, yeah, hey, there's something amiss here. What's going on? Why are they being directed by the government? And then that can be a good opener for a deeper discussion with people. And then those people might want to support you more because they know you're doing it tough, because the police are really giving you a hard time, and they can see that you're being a victim of police brutality.
So, Nick, we've got a question there from Zed. At core, do you sense common law eventually being referenced as a regular and relevant aspect of modern living? Well,
I think if as long as once the people, you know, all ascribe to it, yeah, you just got to have a big, you know, maybe 15% of the country became aware of what law was in the first place, and then they started to, you know, do their research. Yeah, for sure. But it's all based on education, I think, because people aren't educated. They, you know, and when I say not, I mean they're very educated, a lot of people, but they're not educated as to what the truth is. So so they've got to be uneducated. But I think once you get the numbers there, for sure, because it's a much better system than we have. The system we have.
I think it's growing.
It's a whole.
Because this used to be there before. Obviously, you know, we were never, I mean, we talk about having like a common law school and bringing it back into schools and children and getting it sort of out there. So it's not something that we ever had. So we're just happy to sit back and just do what we've been told to do, learn what we've been told to learn, and miss all the stuff that's been going on behind the scenes for the last 30 or 40 years that is creating what's happening today. So more and more people are waking up to it and realising, if they didn't before, a lot of them are even now, and more people are looking for, well, what is it that these people are talking about that was before this happened? So I think the interest is growing quite big, as long as the interest is there long term, not just short term for a fine or something like that.
Yeah, people, we got to get, I think we got the numbers there, just getting them all together, because, you know, you can't even use social media anymore. I mean, people rely on these social media platforms, and that, you know, that can just get shut down tomorrow, or, you know, we just don't know, you know, how long we're going to have that.
We have to really rewrite history, going back to settlement, to imagine, because our history is not our history that we've learned in school is not the history the true history, our real history.
Oh, it's all rubbish. It's all rubbish. They teach us
Yeah.
that dinosaur bones are 65 million years old, but they can still dig them out of the ground and put them back together.
Mm.
How did they convince us of that? I mean, you know, skeletons that are buried, you know, a few hundred years ago are starting to decay, but these dinosaur bones are 65 million years old. Surely they would have turned into coal and diamonds, coal and diamonds, coal and diamonds multiple times. But you know what I mean? Like everything is. I think it's all rubbish. That's why we homeschool all our kids, because I don't want them in that system. I think it's terrible. It's funny because I've spoken to people about homeschooling and they say, oh, is it hard? You know, and it's like, it's a little bit hard sometimes, but it becomes easier when you realize all you got to do is get them to think. You don't really need to teach them that much. It's more getting them to think for themselves. You know, like you show them, this is what you learn at school, and this is what I think it is, and what do you think? And then they start thinking for themselves. That's where they create the images in their mind. When they're just being filled with information, they're not the muscles in there that create the images, or the image creating capacity doesn't get used, because the images go straight in, the sound goes straight in, and that's, you know, they just become a memory bank, and then they're used as a memory bank. And whoever's the best memory bank in the school gets the best, you know, the best education later on, and then they get the best job. But we really want our kids to be able to think for themselves and have rational thoughts and understand what reason is, and be able to argue the point in a dignified way. But they're not going to learn that by going to school. They're going to learn more about all the political agendas, you know, LGBTI, whatever, climate change, whatever. That's what they teach them at school now.
Plus a few other things which we won't talk about at the moment. But anyway,
Yeah.
Look, Nick, I know it's getting late over where you are at the moment. We've been going for over 2 hours. So
Have we?
Still going strong though, which is really good. So I'm hoping that maybe at some stage, like when we put the video up for people, there's probably going to be a lot of questions that come up, that maybe we could do this again another time and have those questions sort of to ask. Would that be possible?
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. This time is pretty good for me anyway, because because I finish work at 8, and then it takes me about probably it probably takes me about 20 minutes to get home. So it gives me about 10 minutes to get ready and jump on.
Did you have dinner?
I actually did. I had a really quick dinner. I ate it quickly and then I sat down. So.
I did too. Mine was lunch though, so I haven't had dinner yet. So look, unless there's something else the girls want to ask, or there's something else you've got to say, we can sort of wrap it up with much gratitude. So, or anybody else?
Oh, you're on mute.
Sharon,
you're on mute.
Oh, sorry.
It's fun. Anyway, thank you very much, Nick. We're very grateful. We've been picking your videos apart for many months. And same with Tom Barnett, and it gives us a lot of confidence.
Yes.
So I must say, we were fluffing around about 9 months ago, me and Shelley, and we still are, but at least like we've got a lot from you guys just doing what you're doing. So we're really grateful.
Very much so. Thank you. The whole essence.
And it gives us a good laugh too.
Yeah.
It's important to laugh, isn't it? If you don't laugh,
This is the best adventure we've ever been on, honestly. It's scary, but it's exciting at the same time.
I'm just going to just say goodbye and stop the recording, and then we can all chat then. So just thank you so much, Nick. I really appreciate it, as does everybody that's here. And we'll see everybody out there in Wonderland, maybe on the next video.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.